Hello and welcome. We are so glad to have you with us, whether you are joining us live or watching the replay. My name is Imran, and I am excited to be hosting this Edpuzzle Live event, one of many where we will discuss and learn about best practices in teaching and learning. I hope you're in the pink of health, just like my new headphones. So, firstly, a bit about myself. I'm with the Edpuzzle community team, and I work with teachers and schools, especially those in the Asia Pacific region, to engage their students through the power of video learning. And I have a guest with me today, Jim Toscano. He is a grade school edtech coordinator at Xavier School in San Juan, the Philippines. Now, he is an Apple Distinguished Educator, an Apple Professional Learning Specialist, and also a 2017 Global Teacher Global Teacher Prize finalist. Let's bring him on. Hi, Jim. How are you today?
Hi Imran, hi everyone. Doing well. It's a nice afternoon. School is done and we're just waiting for, to go home. But all is good. How are you, Imran?
I'm good. The rain here just started, so it's a bit cloudy. It's a bit moody here, but it's nice and cool. And thanks for joining us today, Jim. So, do you want to tell us more bit about your background? So, I mentioned you were an Apple Distinguished Educator, Professional Learning Specialist. You're a finalist for the Global Teacher Prize. So, what do you do right now?
Yeah. Sorry, Imran. I hope my audio is it's well heard right now. It's audible. Yeah. Thank you for that, Imran. Right now, I just came back from Singapore, so I've met Imran again in Singapore. We met each other back in 2019 as ADEs in Australia. Right now, currently some working on some projects, maybe for the school. In the Philippines, we just transitioned back to full time face to face. For us, we're still doing a little bit of hybrid, high flex, so there's still that. But we are excited to plan for the next school year. So there are a lot of things happening as we resume sense of normalcy inside in our school. So there.
Right. That's great. I'm glad things are going back to somewhat normal. Before we get going with today's topic, which is about homework, let's play a short game. And we're going to play a game called Two Truths and a Lie. I don't know whether you've played it in your childhood, Jim, but the game is basically about you sharing with me three statements, three ideas. Two of them are true, and one of them is a lie. And you don't tell me which one is a lie. I need to guess which of the three statements is a lie. So go ahead, share with me three statements, and I'll try to see which one is not true.
All right. So here are my statements for two truths and one lie. Number one, as a teacher, I like giving homework. The second statement is as a student before, I love doing homework. And the third one is as an uncle, I like helping my nephew with his homework.
Okay, so
So
let me
Imran,
just,
which of those
yeah.
is lie?
The first one is as a teacher, you like giving homework. The second one is that as a student, you like to do homework. And the third one is as an uncle, you like to help your nephew out with his homework, right? Um, I don't know. I think it's a close call. As a teacher, I did not really like to give homework because it usually means that I have to kind of go through it in class the next day, the next lesson. So that might be a lie. Then again, as a student, I never liked homework as well, so that could be a lie too. I think as an uncle, I'm an uncle too. I don't think it's a lie. I mean, I like to help out whenever I can. Between the first two statements, whether as a teacher or as a student, I would say that the second statement is a lie. As a student, I don't think you liked homework. So how did I do?
Sorry, what's your option?
I
What's your choice?
Yes, that's the second one. As a student, I don't think you like to do homework. So I think that's the lie.
Okay, so very interestingly, number two is actually truth. So I
Oh,
love
wow.
doing homework. And number three, I think as a way to bond with my nephew, I really love helping him do his homework. The lie there is as a teacher, I like giving homework. I actually like what you said a while ago. giving homework means I have to go through the homework or maybe check the homework for the students.
Right.
And the kind of teacher that that thinks like, um if I give a homework, I need to go through it with my class or check it at least with my class. I don't like teachers who give homework and do not care about, checking them or going back, because there are teachers who does that, right? So number one is because sometimes I feel like I cannot do those things. I'd rather not give a homework. So that's the lie for me. I don't like giving homework. Although interestingly, when I was a student, I love doing homework.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe later we can talk about the kind of homework that your teacher gave that made you like it. So speaking of homework, that's what we're going to talk about today. So we are not just going to say homework is good or homework is bad, because things are never that simple. We're going to examine what does the research say, what are alternatives or tweaks that teachers can make to homework. So Jim, take it away.
Yeah. So given our time right now, I don't think we can really cover or have that much discussion about this debate whether to have homework or not. But interestingly, what we are going to do today is maybe to explore ideas for the sake of discussion. Maybe this will open up some discussions among the teachers who are watching right now, or maybe school leaders who are thinking about this, or even parents who are watching us. The thing here really is, um, if we want to look about this about homework, the ultimate debate on homework is really not just asking whether we give homework or not to our students. It's basically asking, if we have homework, what's the value? Because the default right now is, I think most schools, most teachers give homework, right? And every time a student goes home, there's homework, and parents are helping, or maybe individually, as independently, kids or students are doing their homework. So the big question really is, what's the value of homework? It's like what you've said. It's not as simple as saying, yes, let's have homework. No, let's remove homework. Of course, the big ideas, or that will influence our opinions, or maybe our policies regarding homework, is actually anchored on educational beliefs that we foster in our school, right? So another question is, does homework really help students to be better learners? Especially when you look at researches or studies, at some point they will look into the idea of, really, are homework really helping the students? Are they helping everyone be better? Um, if we look at studies, right now, Marzano and Kun, these are the two researchers that I've looked into, because they've made a meta analysis of some studies regarding homework. For Marzano, homework is an effective tool for learning. Okay, based on research that he did, on the researches that he analyzed. Um, Homework can be an effective tool of learning, but he gives us a warning or a caution, or maybe a reminder, that too much homework might not be able to help our learners, because they might be doing a lot. So, what do we have from Marzano? Marzano reminds us that homework should have a limitation, in a way that there is what he calls as the 10-minute rule. Homework is 10 minutes per grade level. So I think it follows a certain idea of developmental appropriateness, because I cannot imagine kinder and grade 1, grade 2 students spending long hours for homework. I don't think that's also healthy, right? So that's for Marzano. For Kun, little effect on student achievement. Students do more academic work at home, and so therefore, students do not have time for their rest, or maybe enjoying their, how do you call that, enjoying their family time or home time with their parents. So with those in mind, um how do we now look into homework? For Kun, he also
Jim,
says that,
Jim,
sorry. Yeah.
sorry to interrupt you. Could I just ask you about Marzano? So when he
Yeah,
says
sure.
10 minutes per grade, is that every day, or is that over the course of a week, or what's
Okay.
what's the context
um
there?
That's very interesting also based on what I've said. When what I've read, he does not actually say like every day or whatever. There's still a caution there. There's still a warning because um it does not also help. Like for example, in the Philippines, for example, there are 7 subjects, right? If if all of those if all of those subjects are giving homework every day, that means like around 70 minutes per day for students, right? And the definition of homework can also vary. The homework could mean reviewing for a test, or it could be also doing some research, I don't know, independent studies, or maybe answering some worksheets or whatever. So the range of the definition of homework can be very very big. So can you imagine that? And then as you progress along the grade level, you double it or maybe add 10 minutes to it. So while there are certain limitations to this, and one of the things that I've seen is that there are certain schools who still believe in the wisdom behind homework. They actually put a cap or a limit. Like for example, per day there are only 2 subjects, 3 subjects who can give homework. Why is that so? Um, it's not a question of whether you give or not, like yes or no, like what you've said. Because in some studies, like Kun, like Marzano, for example, students who are having a hard time in school may need some extra help. Okay, that extra help may come in the form of after school program, but there's also a wisdom for there's also a wisdom for students to be asked to do some drills, given that they have a very good support system at home. So there's also that disclaimer. It's like, a student who did not understand your lesson will not understand the lesson if he is given a lot of homework at home, especially when it's only the student studying. So there are a lot of this consideration there. If we give homework, who's gonna support the student at home? Are we assuming that there's always an adult at home? Right? That's a very dangerous assumption because not all students or some students belong to a family where their parents have to work at night, or maybe they come home late at night. So with that limitation, a student who thinks 1 plus 1 is equal to 3 in class in front of you will not change that misconception at home, even if you dump a lot of homework. If the student realizes that 1 plus 1 is equal to 2 without you as a teacher, that is a big question on the quality of teaching you are doing. Because even Con says high quality classroom does not actually need classroom teaching do not need homework. So if all learning is done inside the classroom and they are very good, I don't think homework will matter more. But here's the reality. Like what I've shared a while ago, as a student, I love doing homework. I love doing homework because I feel like if I do more homework, for example, in math, there are skills in math. I get to hone that skill, right? You get to sharpen that skill. Uh, because of that, as a student, I love doing homework, but I cannot also assume that, like you, Imran, you might not like doing homework at all. Okay. Number one, because you already know 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. If you do homework about 1 plus 1 is equal to 2, it will still the same. It will not change. So the moment the student, of course, that's a simplistic way of explaining it. But if the student has already achieved that outcome, has already demonstrated that outcome, or that standard in front of you in the classroom, what's the purpose of homework, right? So some questions that actually come out in terms of homework discussion is, should it be mandatory, or should it also only be for students who want to do it, who needs to do it? And if they need to do it, so the question of who's benefiting, if they need to do it, if they have questions, what are the forms of support that we can give to them? Um, for some, homework is still very helpful, but it should not take so much time from students at home. because as teachers we don't want to work at home, right? So is it also fair that we dump a lot of homework to our students and expect them to learn at home? It might not be, because as adults we don't want to work at home. So right, but there is this unwritten, no, this expectation that homework is actually part of student life. So they need to continue doing that at home. Of course, that's not a good assumption as well for me personally. But the big question right here is, it's not whether we can eradicate homework or not, because sometimes there are also good homework that they will not require students to do a lot of things, but maybe you want to have them have advanced information before they come to your class, right? Because sometimes I do like to read in advance, because I feel like if I read in advance, I get to know more and I get to understand, and I get to participate better in the discussion. So there's a saying in Filipino that roughly translate in English, if you know, you have the advantage. I don't know if that's a proper, it's if it's the proper, proper translation to it, but it's something like that. If you know something, it gives you an advantage to other people. So what if we're not condoning the fact that we only allow students, or we only like students who are in advance, but sometimes we cannot stop students from being curious and reading things on their own, doing independent study at home. So can we take advantage of that curiosity, that curiosity of students to read and know things in advance? That's okay. I think that's okay. That's when we look into, maybe there is a form of homework where we can actually ask them to do something and do things in advance. No, there's no pressure to get things perfectly, but just come to the classroom ready with some information in mind. So that brings me to the next part. Maybe homework needs to be meaningful, it's relevant, it's purpose. Like, for example, flipped learning. Some of the audience may say, what, are you just contradicting yourself? You said you don't like flipped learning, or you just said that based on studies, homework has no effect on student achievement. But homework done in flipped learning, there are a lot of studies about flipped learning as well. Flipped learning in a way that we let our students study in advance, gain knowledge in advance before they come to school, so that in school we can focus on feedback giving, clarifying misconception. There are actually studies that says flipped learning helps students, especially those who might need more help. So here's the thing about homework. It's not just it's a yes or a no. We might need to dig deeper into what kind of homework we are giving, because, like, for example, flipped learning is a kind of homework that is purposeful, that is meaningful, that there's an accountability for learner. And some studies or research actually say these are effective. So that's it. I think sorry, because in the interest of time, to ditch or not to ditch homework, it really should be the decision to that should be really inspired by, number one, what's good for your student, right? You don't have to copy what's the policy of other schools, what's the policy of other district, but I think it all goes back to understanding the context of your students. And second, whatever your decision is, if you say yes to homework, what kind of homework will you be giving? What support? If you say no to homework, why are you saying no to the homework? Right? Because there are assumptions to no homework, as much as there are many assumptions or beliefs when we say yes to homework. So really, it's just a matter of going into your own core educational or bedrock education beliefs, and really understanding what works for your students in school. So there.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks. That was very enlightening. I'm going to invite our participants, our attendees, to put in their questions. So we have participants from Philippines, from Malaysia, from Hong Kong, from Singapore. So do key in your questions in the chat. And in the meantime, I'm going to reflect back on what you said. What you said about if we as teachers don't expect to do work at home, why is it that we are expecting students to do likewise? That it is somehow part of student life that they are bringing work home. So I never thought about it that way. That's quite interesting to me. Like we always advocate for work-life balance, but could we advocate for the same for students, where they have some kind of separation between their life at school and their life at home? Now, what I found interesting about Marzano's study, the one about as they progress the grade, the homework amount of homework can increase by 10 minutes. I encountered something similar with John Hattie's meta research.
Mm.
So if you've heard about John Hattie's studies, generally homework, the effect size of homework is not much, but it increases the older the students are. One last thing to wrap up from me is that I also find it interesting that most of these studies, they are looking for the link between homework and achievement. But for me, when I was a teacher, I didn't necessarily think of homework as something to push them up further in terms of only academic progress. So, for example, I tried to make my homework interesting. A piece of homework could be them needing to call a classmate and have a conversation about something. Another piece of homework could be they need to, because I used to teach chemistry, so they needed to go and find the nearest recycling point for electronics, right? Because we talk about the scarcity of metals and so on. So I find it interesting. I wish there was a bit more research, maybe there is, that tried to see other ways that homework was linked to different areas of learning and not just academic progress. So let's see whether we have any questions. Right now, we don't have any questions. I have one question for you, Jim. What is one piece of advice that you would give to educators who are rethinking the homework that they would like to assign to students tomorrow? So maybe tomorrow they're going to school. They were thinking of assigning this piece of homework, but now maybe after listening to you, after attending the session, they're starting to think, okay, maybe I can kind of repackage my homework. What is one piece of advice that you would give to them?
Yeah, this is based also on what you've said, Imran. So I'm following that up.
Uh-huh.
In terms of giving students a balance, school life balance like ourselves, most of the rants against homework of parents is that because it's as if teachers do not communicate with one another and dump a lot of homework to them. It's as if nothing's happening inside the classroom. I think we as teachers we need to be more conscious of the reason, the whys behind the giving of homework. um for me personally, I don't think homework will help students if they do not really understand what they're doing, right? For me as well, a student who learned your lesson has learned the lesson already, right? A student who's very smart in your class might even know more than what you're teaching. But should this stop us from giving homework? Really, really depends on what you believe in. If you believe that all learning should happen inside the classroom and all follow up or whatever inside the classroom, then I don't think you need like homework. But if you believe in feeding the curiosity of your learners, of your students, by giving them homework tasks to read about this, um like what you've said, Imran, I don't actually try to link student achievement with homework because there are a lot of things that will happen between homework and between that, maybe assessment or whatever. It includes what type of follow-up do teachers do, what kind of pedagogical approaches or strategies do teachers do inside the class. So there are a lot. For me really is try to really balance everything. If you want to give homework, maybe discuss this among your team and try to realize that it's not you're not the only subject who's giving homework. So maybe how do you help that? For teachers, it might help if you put yourself in the position of parents who have kids at home. Sometimes those are just the thing that parents ask. Try to be in our place, and we need to support our kids in terms of homework. They do not complain because that's their bonding, but they do complain about the amount of homework that they have to do, and kids really not having a hard time. So maybe that's the discussion. We're not persuading everyone to have homework or not to have homework. Like what Imran said, it's not, it's a thorny issue. It's not a yes or a no, but it should open discussions in school communities about the value of homework, and how it should be seen in the whole teaching learning experiences of the whole school community. Yes, so that's it.
Right. One final question, Jim, and I'm going to put you on the spot here since we're talking about
Okay.
thorny issues. It could be that some schools or some districts, or maybe just some uh, supervisors, there's the head teachers and so on, they have a mandate for homework. Maybe they tell the teachers, okay, you need to have 1 hour of homework. You have to. There's no way out of it. You have to give at least 1 hour of homework for your subject every week. So I'm wondering, like, how could teachers follow this mandate and yet try to put in pedagogical practices that they know is research based and all that, but while still towing the line. So any tips or any advice?
Yeah, it might be difficult to go against if you have a mandate being given,
Yeah.
but I think, for example, number one is balance. So if you're allowed per subject 1 hour, I don't think you're supposed to assign homework every day per 1 hour. Kids will die. Students will die actually with a lot of homework. Number one is balance it out. Maybe discuss among your team who's going to give homework or not, and maybe so that students will also give quality, will spend quality time with the homework, because the moment they know that they have a lot of homework, they won't do it well. That's the thing. But if, for example, there's only one subject, two subjects per day, and we get to control the amount of homework being given, then that's okay. I think it should not it should not only be about the quantity of homework. It's the quality that you've said, like what you've said, Imran. So maybe it's not about, just answering worksheets or whatever, especially because some kids do not have support at home. Maybe just tap, like what I said, tapping in their curiosity, like letting them read. Flip learning, for example. Flip learning is it's a safe space for students to learn. Even if they have misconceptions after they do some flip learning homework, it's okay, because when they go to school, that the job of the teacher is actually to clarify this misconception. So it's a safe space for learning, for students to try to understand on their own. There's no pressure to get things immediately, because that's the job of the teacher to check if you're when they come back, when what you've learned is correct or not, and they have to do it in a meaningful way. So there, maybe discuss among yourself, try to put up a schedule. That's what we do in my school. We have a schedule on homework, and if homework's not needed, then don't give it. And if you give a homework, make sure that you discuss the next day the homework.
Yeah, I want to add some tips to that. So my in my imaginary example, maybe the school has said you must give 1 hour of homework, and if you're a teacher wondering, okay, how do I make it more meaningful and more valuable in the students' learning, you can mix it up, right? So instead of giving 1 hour worth of worksheets where they are merely practicing, perhaps by changing up the mode, by inviting their voice or their collaboration into that homework, I think that allows them to access their higher order thinking and processing, much more so than merely just doing worksheets after worksheet. So for example, instead of a worksheet, get them to maybe record their thoughts, maybe come up with a short video summarizing the same concepts, get them to get with a classmate and work on something together. And I think that will allow them to add a lot more of their own voice, right, and meaning into the homework. And it doesn't make them as mere participants, because they're contributing a lot more. They are working a lot harder. And you know what? You're making everyone happy. Your students are learning more. You are fulfilling maybe the mandate set by your school. So that's one way you could do it. Just try to mix it up and try to see how you can get the students to access all these higher order processing skills. So
Yeah.
that's all we have today. Thank you, Jim, for your time. I hope our attendees have learned as much as I have, and that they continue to empower their students and put them in the driver's seat for their learning journeys. So if you want to watch more of our past live webinars, you can go to YouTube. We have a whole playlist of them there. And we've been Jim and Imran, and you've been great. Till next time, everyone. Thank you and see you again. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, Imran.
Thank you.